Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. A nationally respected steward will lead a probe into Tasmanian harness racing. But further details on who's in the firing line are still to come as fresh allegations are aired.
A respected racing figure charged with leading harness racing out of its darkest week. Former head of the National Chairman of Stewards Group, Ray Murray, to lead an independent investigation.
He has a long and distinguished career providing independent, expert integrity advice services to government sporting codes and law enforcement bodies.
The terms of reference still being developed.
The terms of reference should be broad enough to allow Madeleine Ogilvie herself and her office to be investigated because it's their actions that have brought the industry into disrepute.
No word on if it will.
A lot of complaints come forward and those complaints are managed according to the proper processes.
Ray Murray led an investigation into Tasmanian harness racing 5 years ago, clearing Ben Yole. The Premier says we aren't stuck in a cycle of scandal, review and repeat.
Any previous investigations, of course, there are learnings from those investigations.
An upper house committee is also set to investigate the sport. It includes former racing minister Jane Howlett. Today, Parliament turned to new animal welfare matters, including greyhound trainer Anthony Bullock.
Once Yole's neglected horses reach their use-by date, he sends them down the road to Bullock to kill, butcher and feed to his dogs. Such is the Tasmanian racing circle of death.
While not illegal, the Greens say it's hardly the move of an industry that's never been in better shape. Both men were contacted for comment.
It is incredibly concerning that there are issues in animal welfare. I just can't tell you how much I care about animal welfare.
The racing minister surviving a second attempt to move no confidence in her in 2 days, as the Premier sticks by her.
And for more on developments from State Parliament, we're joined by State political reporter Josh Duggan. And a bill banning the public display of Nazi symbols and salutes in Tasmania has been tabled, Josh.
That's right, Kim, and there's a weighty penalty for those who do break the proposed laws. Fines of more than $3,600 or 3 months imprisonment, and those are doubled if it's the second offence in 6 months. A bill banning the symbols has been in the works since late last year, but the addition of the gestures and salutes clauses are more recent. We saw those recent rallies in Victoria where they were used, Kim, prompting concerns when a similar rally was held here in Tasmania just last week. It will be further debated over the coming months, but the opposition has already signalled its support. Kim?
Well, a 26-year-old Smithton man has been charged with attempted murder after an altercation last night. Officers were called to Lyalita Crescent in Smithton around 10:30. The victim remains in the Royal Hobart Hospital in a stable condition with significant wounds. Police say the pair was known to each other. MyState's CEO says rate rise pauses will help ease pressure for Tasmanians on their mortgage repayments.
On average, a Tasmanians had to pay more than $1,000 a month more on their repayments, their home loan repayments.
It's estimated every interest rate rise cost Tasmanians $70 to $80 extra a month. Food service workers at the Launceston General Hospital are launching industrial action over roster changes at the facility. The health union says long-serving part-time workers are being robbed of regular rostered hours, which are being allocated to casual employees.
Some of those people have been working those additional hours for over a decade, and they rely on those hours to meet the cost of living and to pay their bills.
Union members will be distributing flyers throughout the hospital as part of the industrial action. A Tasmanian mother of 2 sleeping rough says some days she's running out of hope after becoming homeless last year. She's been evicted from social housing over a debt relating to her previous tenancy, with the St Vincent de Paul Society calling for more to be done to help her and others in dire straits.
It's a situation nobody should have to face. Mother of 2 D'Amica is without a place to call home, with winter rapidly approaching.
I've got a bloody tent. It's cold out there. It's freezing.
Recovering from a serious injury, she was only released from hospital yesterday. Tonight, she's back on the streets.
We're like that every day. Every single day, we've got to get up and we've got to walk miles for a shower. We've got to walk miles to get our clothes washed.
She was evicted from her Westbury home late last year over a social housing debt. The move plunging her family into uncertainty.
I've got my daughter with me, obviously, but my son is with his dad's side of the family, thank goodness, because there's nowhere to go. It's hard.
The number of people seeking help from Vinnie's for rental arrears rose almost 80% in the last year. The end of a rental moratorium during the pandemic is being blamed for skyrocketing debt figures.
It's hard to picture where this is going to end.
Social housing residents have to pay back at least 80% of the arrears before they're eligible for a new place to live. Just 5 years ago, the organisation would see months go by before a family might seek that kind of assistance. Now it's more like 5 inquiries a week.
We'd be keen to see a greater sense of compassion and what can be done to support people more proactively.
And they're calling for more to be done to address the crisis.
We've been out in the streets for that long now. It's disgusting.
The Housing Minister's office was contacted for comment. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
The Prime Minister says the development of the Macquarie Point site must meet a number of key objectives. Anthony Albanese made the comments in response to a question from Tasmanian MP Andrew Wilkie regarding the proposed $750 million stadium. Mr Wilkie claims the community overwhelmingly opposes the plans.
Prime Minister, in light of all this, will you rule out funding for this ridiculous idea?
I want to move towards making sure that we get appropriate residential, recreational, commercial activity at the site.
The question comes as a number of key leaders from Tasmania's business community visited the nation's capital today, pressing the case for the stadium. A man who escaped Risdon Prison and led police on a dangerous car chase has been sentenced. Michael Douglas Westbrook escaped via the prison's old hospital roof and stole a vehicle in September 2021 before being apprehended. In the Supreme Court today, Justice Blow sentenced him to 2 months imprisonment for evading police, which was backdated to November 2021. On the other 6 charges, Mr Westbrook was sentenced to 2 years, 8 months in prison with a non-parole period of 16 months. The Lord Mayor of Hobart says she's disappointed to have been charged over an alleged incident involving her and a councillor. Anna Reynolds will face court in May, accused of assaulting Louise Elliott at a public meeting in May last year, before Ms Elliott was elected. In a statement, the Lord Mayor says she will vigorously defend the charges, also confirming she is eligible to continue in her role while the matter is before the court. Families will have access to vital children's health checks in the community with the rollout of a new clinic service. The Kids Care Clinics prioritise vulnerable children and will be based at community houses and child centres around the state.
A service that is based in our regions, but which can outreach into local communities where people are, where they live, where their needs express, is the innovation here.
The long-term benefits is really making sure that we have our well-being at the centre of the children so they can thrive and be the best they can so that they reach their fullest potential.
The clinics are being rolled out in the south this year, followed by the rest of the state. An elderly Tasmanian pet owner has been reunited with her beloved dog more than a year after he went missing. Believed stolen, the 3-year-old pooch somehow ended up in Victoria, today making the journey back home for a very emotional reunion.
A long-awaited homecoming after months of heartbreak. The days without her furry companion felt like a lifetime for Cynthia Briers.
Love you. Yes, I missed you too. I missed you too. This is better than winning Tats Lotto. People don't realise what an animal does to old people's lives or anyone's lives.
After being found by police at a Melbourne address, the precious cargo touched down in Hobart this afternoon.
Pray to God every night that he was well and I'd get to see him before I died. Didn't I? And I used to tell you every night I loved you.
It's all been made possible with the help of a local dog searcher who dedicates her time to helping Tasmanians find their missing pets.
I just broke down, because it is overwhelming. It's so wonderful. I mean, they're family.
The Maltese pup vanished from the Claremont home 14 months ago.
And when I come home, I knew something was wrong because he wasn't at the door to meet me.
But it was only last week when somebody sent me a message saying CJ's microchip has been scanned that I thought, you beauty, we're halfway there.
It's now back to business for little CJ, who will be enjoying some cuddles on the couch and plenty of sweet treats from his owner.
He likes the old paddle pop, the flavour one, rainbow one. You haven't changed. You haven't changed.
A perfect ending to a tough time without her sidekick. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, Advocacy Tasmania has criticised the government's reform to guardianship and administration, calling them piecemeal. CEO Leanne Groombridge says they propose no penalties attached for mistreatment, while the tranched reforms will bring slower change.
It doesn't go far enough, and it doesn't actually address the main concerns of Tasmanians who have been caught in the guardianship system. So it's really unlikely to deliver anything much.
The Premier says the government is working on the reforms as quickly as possible. Their preparations for the Mountain Bike World Cup series are in full gear, with hundreds of competitors on track to take over the trails of Derby. Elite riders will race on the restored world-renowned trails after last year's flooding event wiped part of them out.
Elevating Derby's mountain biking scene, the buzz around town has reached new heights.
Quite a bit of anticipation.
Pretty historic moment.
More than 400 competitors are gearing up for round 2 of the Enduro World Cup, taking to the black trails of Blue Derby.
We had the first ever Enduro World Cup in Medina last week, so to have 2 World Cup events in Tasmania to start off the international season really is a coup for the local area.
Australian Luke Meyer-Smith is the current World Cup series leader and has high hopes for Derby.
Pretty excited for it. Quite different conditions here, but yeah, it should be awesome racing this weekend, so looking forward to seeing what I can do here. Compared to Medina, it's a bit more physical, definitely a bit more flat, so there'll be a bit more pedalling involved.
Putting Tassie terrain on the map, showcasing some of the world's best trails, with thousands of supporters expected to descend on Derby.
Everyone gets up in the hill there, they've got their noisemakers, they've got their chainsaws without the chains, so it really does, the town comes alive.
You've got almost a fortnight of absolutely every accommodation place in the municipality booked out, which is good.
But it's been a slippery slope preparing for the international event, with the October floods ravaging through the popular tracks, leaving a trail of destruction.
A lot of pre-construction work had to go in, and then of course we had to join up 3 trails. So Air You Going, which is the part of the trail we want to use for the Enduro series.
That's going to be fixed in time for the race, so we get to showcase what was the trail of the year voted by all the riders back in 2019. That'll be back in action, so it's a great result for the town.
Final preparations are in motion for another iconic race. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Lark Distillery is on the verge of finding out if 2 of its products are picked as one of the world's top drops. The distiller is a finalist in 2 categories at the World Whiskies Awards. Its Chinotto flavoured one has been nominated in the single malt category, while its blended malt variety is also up for an award. Owners grateful for the support they've been given over the past 3 decades.
They offered to help us right back in the beginning for that very reason. They would like to see us make such good whiskies. So for us, it's a great reward after 30 years to be playing in that area.
The winners will be announced in London tomorrow. The artist formerly known as Emma Wiggle has traded yellow for orange in a unique show hitting the stage in Launceston tomorrow. Joined by friend and deaf performer Elvin Melvin, Emma Memma's Twirly Tour is hoping to get audiences up and dancing.
But really the show is completely integrated with music and dance and sign language, singing and gesture, mime and activity, and it's a playful show and it's very colourful.
Tickets are still available, with hopes the tour can return to Tasmania later this year.
The opening of the NBL 1 South season will see a battle of Tasmania's top talent when the north and the south of the state go head-to-head. The Hobart Chargers will be looking to bring their all in away territory on Saturday night, where the Northwest Thunder and the Launceston Tornadoes will be ready to fire. Olivia West is back from American College to make her Taunts return.
Feels really full circle, I think.
I'm excited. I've obviously been still following them through the years. It's nice to be back in Launceston, a really familiar place, obviously.
Really looking forward to trying to be competitive for that full 40 minutes, and hopefully, if we can do all the right things, we'll be there right at the end of the game, and hopefully pinch one to start the season.
All the action begins with the women's at 5:30, followed by the men's tip-off at 7:30 under lights at Thunder Stadium. Our UTAS basketballers have suffered defeat in their double-header against the University of Technology Sydney. In the women's competition, Tasmania struggled to keep up from the outset, with the margin widening in the third quarter. The final score 71-42. Meanwhile, in the men's game, it was a closer contest, but UTAS couldn't quite keep up with Sydney, suffering a 9-point loss. Tasmania will have the bye in round 4 of the University Basketball League. As women's soccer surges on the field in Tasmania, a new program has been launched to get more females involved in the boardroom. The Future Leaders program will provide governance and management training as the sport looks to harness the benefits of hosting the Women's World Cup.
Making an impact both on and off the pitch. As a player, coach and now board member, Clarence's Taylor Rand lives and breathes the world game, but is still just one of a few women in a leadership role.
A lot of times what we see is that women don't necessarily see themselves in leadership positions, but they absolutely are in those positions.
Tasmania leads the nation in how many women play, but the governing body says it still has work to do off it.
We're underrepresented in terms of females in leadership roles, and we'd like to start to help address that.
A new program backed by MyState Bank will aim to address the shortage. The Future Leaders program will begin in May, with participants to learn the skills needed to run a club.
Ranging from financial management, governance and regulations, conflict management, communications.
If you see women around, you're going to realise, okay, that's normalised, that's something I can do as well, and that's going to be my goal.
The initiative coming in a massive year for the game. The Women's World Cup predicted to deliver a surge in registrations and interest.
This program is definitely meant to kind of catalyse that and bring them up into those leadership roles.
Having diversity of thinking at the board table, at the leadership table, across management of the whole business, just brings diversity of thinking. And
meanwhile, our state may still have a role to play in the tournament. Football Tasmania talking to qualified nations about playing warm-up games in the state.
But we'd love to have really any nation. The Irish, we've had some good discussions with the Irish and other nations.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
And Tasmanian Tigers all-rounder Heather Graham has earned a spot in the Australia A squad for the Women's Ashes Tour of the UK. Fellow Tasmanian and South Australia player Courtney Webb has also been named. The squad will play 3 T20s and 3 one-dayers during the series against England, which begins in June.
Good evening, everyone. Hobart and Burnie both 19 degrees today, 18 in Launceston and Devonport. Across the state, 20 the top in Grove and Friendly Beaches, Wynyard and St Helens 19, 18 on King Island, Flinders Island and Strahan 17 and 13 in Lyowini. Across Tasmania today, a large cloud band is visible covering the state. And further out, another extensive area of cloud can be seen stretching from central Western Australia across South Australia to Queensland, while patchier cloud can be seen over the remainder of southeastern Australia. Tomorrow, a deep low pressure system is to the east of Tasmania. A high over South Australia extends a ridge of high pressure over the south of the country, while troughs lie over parts of the north. And we'll see south to southwesterly winds tomorrow, 20 to 30 knots and 25 to 35 knots about the central north and east. And with that said, a severe weather warning for damaging winds is current for the northeast and east coasts and parts of the northwest coast, central north, central plateau and Midland forecast districts. There is also a gale warning from Stanley to southeast Cape and a strong wind warning for the far northwest coast and multiple bays and lakes across the state. Clearing showers and 18 in Hobart and New Norfolk tomorrow, 17 in Cygnet. Launceston, cloudy and 19, 20 in Devonport, possible showers and 17 in Campbelltown. 18 degrees in Burnie tomorrow, increasing showers and 17 in Strahan, Smithton 19, and showers in the east with St Helens reaching 18, 17 in Swansea and Fingal 16. And the UV tomorrow is moderate across the state. Looking on to Friday, showers about the west, far south and Bass Strait Islands. Showers continuing in those areas on Saturday. And on Sunday, showers remain in those areas again, fine elsewhere with frost about the Midlands. Showers in Perth and Adelaide tomorrow, Melbourne and Canberra 19, mostly sunny and 25 in Sydney, Brisbane 30 and 34 degrees in Darwin. And currently 15 degrees in Hobart and drizzle there, and cloudy and 17 in Launceston and Devonport. And Kim, looks like it's going to be a windy night.
Yeah, don't go much on that forecast. Thanks, Chelsea. And that is all we have time for this evening. Have a great night. We'll be along later with news breaks and updates, but for now, it's good night.